Hello, my name is Chloe Folan, and I've actually been meaning to make some short videos because to keep the length of time on this a reasonable amount of time, I probably am going to have to turn this into a series of videos. So I have been meaning to, and prompted by overlapping email questions or questions that came up for people who are aware, who follow my social media. I just hosted last week the Blessing Technique Workshop, the first two classes, and some interesting points were made about colour. We were discussing a little bit about colours and rays. So like I said, I've been meaning to create a video based on this for a while, but I think it's actually important to mention what the final incident was that made me go, okay, no, I do need to be a little more public about this. And I do need to right relations, use my voice a bit more, especially when ignorance rears its head. Because like that, when it comes to the field of expertise I work in, there's a lot of good, reliable, helpful information out there. But there's also a lot of fluff that gets rehashed, and sometimes just very veiled nonsense that gets rehashed. And I actually dealt with this a few years ago, but it cropped its head up again about 2 weeks ago. So I've sat with this and gone, no, I do need to address this. So as the first part of this video series on colour and rays, I'm first of all going to just discuss addressing some undulating ignorance that's out there. And I'll explain. A couple of years ago, when with clients and groups, I started handing out the pink light technique. Somebody who had mentioned it to somebody else who claims to be a so-called metaphysical teacher, and their reaction was, oh no, there's this ray combination out there that's more powerful. What are you using the pink light technique for? And now it's happened again, where someone who was using the pink light technique after I put it out there more publicly a few weeks ago, and I like that on the whole, amazing response. It's helping a lot of people. There's been amazing feedback. I've had so many people say, Chloe, I wish I knew you had this sooner. I would have loved to have been using this a lot longer. So a lot of very good feedback, but then it cropped up again where someone contacted me, and like that, they were just letting me know. They weren't upset or anything like that, just a little bit shocked, but they were fine after I spoke to them, where it happened again, where they mentioned to a particular teacher, and I use the term loosely, and I suppose this would be a teacher that would fall into the category of New Age, and supposedly somebody that would at least pretend to know a lot about the rays and colour, but obviously missing the basics quite a bit. And they shared with this teacher the pink light technique they were using, mentioned where they got it, was starting to talk about a little more about it to them, and they were immediately shut down. You know, couldn't even really get into an explanation or explain it a bit more, just automatically shut down and told, oh no, this is the upgrade. This ray combination is more powerful, and this is what the pink ray is. Wow. Wow. Childish and immature, and it reveals someone who, number one, is very insecure. So when a so-called teacher or someone who claims to know information about the rays or work with the rays, if they are that insecure, I really wouldn't bother with anything else they claim to teach or know. And more to the point, they obviously don't understand the fundamental basics of color and rays. And I'll explain it like this. As most people know, when you break up the white light spectrum, white light is only white light because of all the colors that unify to create white light. When white light is broken up and fractured, that's what produces rainbow colors, the other hues, the other spectrums. So if you take out one significant portion of the spectrum that makes up white light, it's not white light. So number one, all rays are of equal importance. They have different impacts, they have different frequencies, they have different tones, but all the rays equally matter. One ray is not better than another. I'll say it again. If you take out a significant portion of the spectrum color that makes up white light, it's not white light. All the rays are needed. It takes all the rays unifying to create white light. And if we didn't have that, when white light then does break up and fracture, we wouldn't get that beautiful multicolored luminescence that we get with color spectrums. And there is this very slight, very subtle, undulating, passive-aggressive immaturity that's circulating a tiny bit now and again, where there's this notion that this ray is more powerful, or this ray is better, or this is the upgrade. Give me a break. All spectrum of color already existed. It comes down to what you are noticing. It comes down to what you are aware of. And it's very much reflective of your journey. But just because a particular ray is a higher frequency than another ray, it does not make it better than or more powerful, at least in the context I'm speaking about. Meaning the whole reason for publicly releasing the pink light technique was to give anybody, no matter what their age, no matter what, in other words, I don't publicly release a technique unless it's suitable for public consumption. And there's unfortunately people out there that would claim to work in esoterics and things of that nature, that in an effort to stay relevant or riding the next wave of the latest fad, will put techniques out there that haven't been tested properly or that aren't appropriate for public consumption. I don't do that. So when you go on my website or my YouTube, all of my videos are suitable for public consumption, or it's explained that this is an educational video for this document. But in other words, the pink light technique, the aim behind that was sharing a technique that's been proven to work, and not just with my own case studies, independent case studies, other people that have done similar work with pink light. There is a plethora, there is a huge wealth of independent studies that have been done on the results of sending pink light in one way or another. So it's a very universal technique. It's very safe. The methodology that I use with it is very safe and effective for what it does. So it's a very good general technique that anyone can use that does produce positive results if it's consistently used and implemented. So just because it's not the highest frequency, or because it's not a tripled flame, it doesn't mean it's not as good as or less than. And let me explain it. And this brings me back to subtle immaturity some so-called teachers are suffering from. Let's just say someone's grandchild has been born, and their grandchild is like that. Birth has gone fine, everything's fine, baby's in the labour ward, and the person contacts me, the grandparent contacts me and goes, I'd like to send some good thoughts. What's the best colour to work with? Well, then I'd say the pink light technique. You know, if you're going to send good thoughts to a hospital, especially with new babies in a labour ward, sending pink light is fantastic to do. When it's just a general healing, sending good thoughts, there is no need to use violet. There's no need to use the gold and silver violet flame. We're talking generally. It's no different. So a teacher that would shut down someone who's using a technique that in many different ways has been proven to work, that's safe and appropriate to use under any circumstances, a so-called teacher of esoterics or personal and spiritual development that would shut somebody down from using a technique like the pink light technique, going, oh no, this is the upgrade, this is better, this childish, and also they don't understand ultimately what they are talking about, because it's not so much what's the highest frequency or what's a more appropriate, not better than, notice my language, not better than, because one ray is not better than the other, not what is more powerful than, once again, childish. It comes down to an immature, it comes down to just putting a little bit of thought into what's appropriate. What is the appropriate ray to work with? And that's best answered by what is the situation. So taking a little bit of time to sit down and go, okay, in what context, what type of situation do I want to utilize working with phrase or color with? That will give you the best marker for what ray or color to work with, because even though rays and color are different, they do overlap. Of course they do, and I'll explain that in the next video. I just really want to address this. So when it comes to what I was talking about, it's not one ray is more powerful than the other or better than another. It's what's most appropriate to use. And coming back to the pink light technique that I more publicly released a few weeks ago, no matter what situation, it brings in healing, it helps to bring in growth, it helps to bring in goodwill, it helps to bring in love, compassion, acceptance. It brings in so much goodness when it's gently and consistently applied over a period of time. And it's a beautiful technique that anyone can use, children can use it, that really helps to spread light and has been proven to, in many ways, healthily spread light. So in answer to the argument then over frequency, like that in my Golden Atlantis course, I teach people very deeply and in a lot of very interesting ways how to apply the gold and silver violet flame. So someone that would have already had the pink light technique from me before they did the Golden Atlantis course with me, if they were to ask me, Chloe, well, I've been using your pink light technique, so is it better to use the pink light or is it better to use the gold and silver violet flame? It's not better than, it's what is the situation you would like to use it for. So the gold and silver violet flame is fantastic if something's a bit stuck, if you want to do some deeper transmuting, you want to bring in grace, you want to really raise the frequency. So for very stuck situations, for very gritty situations, for when there's a lot of tension. So fabulous for global tension at the moment if you wanted to send the gold and silver violet flame. But a normal labour ward doesn't need that. A playground, a normal, healthy playground with children playing in it doesn't need that. So sometimes a situation doesn't need something deeper or a higher frequency. Sometimes a situation needs something gentler, with more compassion and a gentler touch. And even if it comes down to then someone absorbing what I'm saying and going, well, Chloe, what about then the violet flame versus the gold, silver, and violet flame? I would first of all be asking them to gently remove the verses, because it's not about violet flame versus the gold and silver violet flame. It's what's more appropriate for a situation or for your individual self. If you feel that something's a little bit stuck and just needs a bit of loosening, violet's very good for, really breaking up entrenched energies. Violet flame followed by some white is perfect. But if you want to transmute, bring in some grace and just concentrate on raising the frequency a bit more, well then yes, the gold and silver violet flame. But the gold and silver violet flame is not better than the violet. It comes down to what's the intention that you would like to use it for? What's the situation? Taking a step back to examine the situation, you would like to work with the ray or flame with more. That's the marker for what might be more appropriate. But coming back to what I was saying, the gold and silver violet flame wouldn't be that without violet. So violet by itself is still relevant for what it does, for its purpose. Gold and silver violet flame wouldn't exist without the violet flame. So really my thrust with this video today is to be a little more right relations active, with intelligently counteracting this slightly hidden passive-aggressive versus nature that's out there with, oh, this ray's better, this is the upgrade, this is that. No. All of the ray frequencies you could ever think of already exist. It's what you are now aware of. And just because it's a ray or ray combination you haven't been aware of before doesn't mean it's better than previous ray or ray combinations that you've been aware of. It might be very interesting to work with that new combination, but it's essentially not better than if it's of a higher frequency, or if it's a combination of more than one ray. It's what is the situation and what would be most appropriate to work with based on that situation, and to push that a little bit further. And once again, this is where I do have a very low tolerance for hypocrisy. I really do. Where a teacher who would shut somebody down over using a technique that works. Okay, I'm talking about a technique that works, meaning the pink light technique. There's something wrong with that person if they claim to be love and light and would shut somebody down over using a light technique that works. And then the reasoning for that is, this is more powerful. This is the upgrade. Do you know what that is? And this is where hypocrisy comes in. That is no different to an imprint, a wound someone would carry over believing their religion is better than somebody else's. I'll say that again. Someone approaching somebody over their religious path and gently starting to talk about it because they've been asked, or because it's a setting where people are being asked to discuss different methodologies they know about, or in this example, religion. So someone starts to talk about their religion or their religious path and starts to talk about how it's helped them, how they found it beneficial. Somebody then turning around and shutting them down and going, oh no, this religion is more powerful. This religion is better than. And the hypocrisy there lies in that most people who claim to work with the rays or teach the rays would claim to be multi-denominational and would claim to respect all religious paths. But guess what? If you are doing that, if you're shutting somebody down, shutting them down and going, no, this is more powerful, this is the upgrade, this is better, when the technique has been proven to work and spread light, then you are no different than somebody who would get out there screaming at other people over how their religious path is wrong and yours is better. Think on that. Think on that. The imprint is no different. The imprint is no different. It's just translating differently. It's displaying differently, rather than that level of ignorance coming from deep religious wounding. It's coming from wounding that's translating through the rays. So I'll gently summarize again. White light would not be white light without the full spectrum that makes white light. And without rays, there would not be color. All rays are relevant. All rays have a place. And all rays unified together create white light. All rays are relevant. It just becomes about just providing a little bit of knowledge and intelligence around each ray, and then considering what the situation is that you want to utilize that ray for. But this notion that the upgrades are more powerful, they're not upgrades. It's you becoming aware of a certain combination or a certain frequency. It already existed before you. It already was there. All rays are relevant. All rays have their place, and all the rays are needed to create white light. So to the people out there who are suffering from very low self-esteem, needing to shut somebody down over white light, you're on a serious learning curve, and that needs to heal. And I hope me putting it in the context like that, meaning if you think that you're more evolved because you're multi-denominational, or because you think you don't judge based on someone's religious path, if you fall into that category of having shut someone down for working with a particular ray or color when it's been proven to work. So once again, the pink light technique is universal. For any situation you can think of, it can be applied. But of course, there's other creative ways that you can more in a pinpointed way work with other rays and color. They're all relevant. They all have a place. So if you're shutting somebody down because you think there's an upgrade out there or something's more powerful, then you're no different to the people out there that would start nasty arguments and borderline bully somebody because they believe their religion is better than. So now that I've got that off my chest, because like I said, it cropped up a couple of years ago, just ignored it. I wasn't going to, like, as I talked to the person it happened to, they were very glad that I was able to, in a very balanced, bird's eye view way, in a very unified way, rectify the situation. They're still using the pink light technique. So was the person this recently happened to. So what I was also asked is what the lesson isn't in it for me is when that happens to you. Number one, understand everybody's learning. Everybody's learning. But maybe consider if you really have come across a teacher who understands about colors and rays, when that's their reaction, I personally would be advising you to go elsewhere to get advice over the colors and the rays, or work with somebody else who understands properly about different bandwidths and the spectrum of color and things of that nature, and understands it's all relative and it all has a place. It's just about suggestions of appropriate correspondence to that color and ray for different situations. Just because it's a higher frequency doesn't mean it's better than. Different situations call for a different approach. And like that, highlighting that it's just a very veiled, very well hidden religious wound. My path is better than, my path is right, your path is wrong, my path's whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I believe I've, in the best way possible, conveyed this message as best I can, in the best language and the best frequency and tone possible. So on that note, I hope this video reaches the right people, and I hope it gives people some interesting food for thought and something interesting to reflect on, something that helps provide a bit of enlightenment. Like that, if anyone has any questions for me about anything I've mentioned, please feel free to contact me. And I will be making further videos discussing more in depth about the colors and the rays, just, you know, some pinpointed basics, but handy basics to be aware of or have re-highlighted nonetheless. And if you would like the pink light technique I've been talking about, if you look back through a couple of posts, it's up on my social media pages. I've got a slide as well up on my Instagram for it that you can freely access. And, or you could email me if you want the full document on how to use the pink light technique. It's very safe and it works, and it's appropriate for all ages, all situations, for sending goodness, healthy thoughts and goodwill. So on that note, no matter what ray you feel more affiliated with, it's always very healthy to experience other rays. It's like that. Some people do feel more affiliated to particular rays, and that sometimes comes down to someone's ray makeup. We'll talk more about that again. But no matter what ray you feel more affiliated with, or what ray you have more of in your own ray makeup, blessings to all the rays, blessings to all the frequencies. Creativity and diversity are needed, and creativity and diversity also is what helps to create health and wholeness, and help us all keep open minds, and helps us all respect other methodologies and pathways. So while it's important to always stay true to yourself and what you feel is right for you, blessings to all rays, blessings to all frequencies. Everyone's rays and frequencies and combinations are relevant. Rainbow blessings to all.